I see you every time you reach for your phone like it's a lifeline, as if one more scroll, one more glimpse into their carefully curated world might bring you the closure your soul still aches for. And I watch as you try to decode the meaning behind their silence, the reason behind their sudden distance, the purpose behind why someone who once made you feel like the center of their universe now treats you like a stranger walking past their door. And though the world tells you to move on, to forget, to pretend it never mattered, I know the truth that you've buried beneath your strength. I know you loved deeply. I know you gave parts of yourself you never gave to anyone else. And I know that their absence still echoes louder than you want to admit, but I need you to understand this. You're not healing by checking their updates. You're reopening wounds I've been trying to close with every look, every memory. Every night you lie awake wondering what you did wrong. And the truth is, my child, you didn't do anything wrong to lose them. They were never meant to be part of the forever I've written for you. And I did not allow this disconnection to punish you, but to protect you, because you don't see what I see. You see the version they showed you, the highlight reel, the warmth you missed, the laughter you shared, but I see the hidden intentions, the spiritual weight they carried, the compromise you would have continued to make if I didn't intervene, and I couldn't bear to. Watch you keep shrinking yourself for someone who couldn't recognize the divine in you, who couldn't love you without conditions, who couldn't hold your heart without wounding in silence. And yes, I know it's hard to understand because the world praises staying connected, but not all connections are healthy. Some are soul ties that drain you. Some are spiritual assignments that were only supposed to last a season, not a lifetime. And while you keep returning to the illusion of what was, I'm trying to lead you into the revelation of what will be. And that future doesn't begin with them. It begins the moment you stop anchoring your worth in someone who walked away. Because I never asked you to chase people who were only meant to pass through your life like a storm, brief, disruptive, and meant to clear the skies for something greater. And every time you compare your growth to their new photos, their new posts, their new relationship, I want you to ask yourself, why am I giving so much power to someone who chose to let go of me? Why am I allowing their digital presence to dictate my healing process? Because what you're seeing isn't their truth. It's a projection, a distraction, and sometimes even a performance. And while you're measuring your sadness against their apparent joy, you're forgetting that healing doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens in the sacred, unseen moments where you choose to stop looking back and start moving forward. And I have someone for you. Someone who will not only love you, but value you without needing to be reminded of your worth. Someone who won't vanish when things get hard. Someone who won't make you feel like love is a prize you must earn with silence and sacrifice. But I can't bring them while you're still spiritually entangled with someone who no longer speaks your name in prayer, who no longer includes you in their vision. And I know that feels harsh. But sometimes truth is the only doorway to freedom. And the truth is, they left because they weren't equipped to grow with you. And if you kept holding on, you would have stunted what I've been preparing in you. This resilience, this strength, this clarity, this purpose. And no matter how many times you go back to look, to wonder, to remember, you will not find the answers your heart is longing for in their updates because they cannot give you what they never carried. The ability to stay, the capacity to grow, and the willingness to choose you again and again. And I, God, am asking you not to check one more post, not to open one more window into their world, because while you're watching them, you're not watching me. And I am doing something new. Something so beautifully orchestrated that you won't even miss what I removed when you step into what I'm revealing. But first, you must delete the idol you've made out of their memory. Tear down the altar you built out of their digital shadow, and place your heart back in my hands. And if you do, I promise, yes, I promise, that what's coming will not only surpass what you've lost, it will redeem every tear, every unanswered question, every lonely scroll through memories that no longer serve your spirit. Because your future was never found in someone who left. It's waiting the place where you stop looking back and finally say, God, I'm ready to move forward. And still, even after all this time, your heart holds a quiet space for them. A space that sometimes feels like a museum filled with what ifs and maybes, a sacred exhibit of moments that never reached their full potential. And while the world may not see it, I, your heavenly Father, do, and I've watched as you've scrolled through memories like they were scriptures, clinging to every digital trace of someone who has long since left the story I'm writing for you. And each time you search there, name or revisit the pictures where your smile stretched just a little wider because they stood beside you. I feel your soul gripping onto a version of the past that no longer aligns with the future I've carved out for you. And I know how unfair it felt, how quickly things changed, how easily they let go, how they once made you feel like you were everything only to treat you like nothing. And I know how you've questioned yourself in the silence, asking what you did wrong, what you failed to see, what sign you missed that could have warned you before the storm. But my beloved, I need you to stop tormenting yourself over someone whose spirit was never equipped to run with yours. Because I did not design you to chase ghosts. I created you to walk in authority, to live in freedom, to stand in your worth with confidence, not to beg for crumbs of attention or to measure your value by someone's inability to see your light. And you keep thinking they were the destination, but they were only the lesson, necessary, yes, but not permanent. And you keep imagining reconciliation, a sudden return, a closure that never comes. But what if the closure is not a conversation, not a reunion, not an apology, but a revelation that you deserve more than someone who made you feel like love was a competition you kept losing? And while you're still checking their profile, they're not checking your heart. They're not praying over your name. They're not waking up wondering how they hurt you. They've moved on, or at least they've moved forward in appearance. And you are still standing in the spiritual residue of a connection that expired while you were trying to resuscitate it. And I did not call you to remain in limbo, suspended between who you were and who you're becoming, tied to someone who wouldn't recognize your evolution even if it stood before them, glowing with the fire of your healing. And I say this not to wound you, but to free you, because you've spent so long convincing yourself that maybe, just maybe, they'll realize your worth too late and come back. But if they do not carry my spirit, they will only come back to repeat the same cycle. And I love you too much to let you repeat lessons you've already passed. And you keep seeing their updates and wondering if they're happier now, if they've become the person you always hoped they'd be, if someone else is receiving the love you tried so hard to earn. And I'm here to tell you that their newness is not your failure. It is not proof that you are the problem. It is not evidence that you are unworthy. It is simply what happens when people move in different directions spiritually, and it's time to accept that their profile is not your prophecy. Their story is not your standard, and their distance is not your defeat. And every time you return to those platforms, every time you rehearse the pain, Every time you revisit the digital shadows, you delay the joy that's waiting on the other side of your surrender. And you cannot step into a new chapter while constantly rereading the old one, hoping the ending will change. And God, am asking you to let it go. Not because it didn't matter, but because it doesn't belong in the masterpiece I'm painting through your life. And I know the silence hurts. I know the wondering hurts. I know the emptiness where their presence used to be still echoes some nights. But I have someone who will not leave without reason, who will not make you beg for honesty, who will not disappear without explanation, someone who will see you not as an option or a backup plan, but as a divine appointment, as an answered prayer. And when they look at you, they will not compare you to the world. They will honor the holiness within you. And you won't feel the need to perform or chase or shrink because they will meet you in your fullness, in your truth, and in the power of who you've become through this heartbreak. And if you would just release that profile, that fixation, that craving for answers from someone who can't even tell you the truth of why they left, I will flood your life with a peace that passes understanding. And it will no longer matter why they chose what they chose, because you'll be too busy dancing in the middle of the promise I had waiting for you all along. And you'll finally know what it means to be loved without condition, to be seen without distortion, and to be held by someone who doesn't vanish when the winds rise, because they were not sent by emotion, but by me. And if you trust me, if you surrender their profile and pick up my presence, I will show you a future that will make you forget the pain of your past. Not because it didn't shape you, but because it led you straight to me. You keep telling yourself it's harmless, that it's just a few seconds, just a glance, just a check to see what they're doing, who they're with, what they've posted. But each time you open that window into their world, you unknowingly close the door to your own healing. And I, the Lord your God, have watched with grieving love as you reach back to what I already removed, hoping to find peace in a place I have no longer blessed. And I know it feels like their absence left a hole in your chest, like their silence carved a canyon inside of you. And I know how the mind can trick the heart, replaying highlight reels of sweet moments, ignoring the patterns that broke you down, minimizing the times you cried in secret, excuse behavior you didn't deserve, and beg me in prayer to show you a sign. And when I did, when the distance appeared, when the exit happened, when the goodbye came without reason, you called it a punishment, a betrayal, a mistake, but it was my mercy disguised as loss. My protection wearing the mask of heartbreak, because I saw what you couldn't see. That this person you keep watching from afar was becoming a weight on your spirit, a fog over your clarity, a ceiling to your growth. And had I allowed them to stay, you would have built your future on a foundation that couldn't sustain the purpose I've placed within you. And no matter how dressed up their profile looks now, no matter how happy they appear, no matter how many likes or smiles or comments you see, remember that social media is not a mirror of the soul. It is a theater, and many souls are good at acting, at smiling while they're drowning, at posting while they're panicking, at posing while they are spiritually breaking. And while you ache over their surface level joy, you are ignoring the quiet miracle happening within you. The transformation I've begun, the rebuilding I've orchestrated, and this is not the season for watching others. This is the season for becoming, and I can't elevate you into a new level of faith, favor, and fulfillment if your eyes are still fixed on a place where your spirit was ignored, your voice was dismissed, and your needs were minimized. And you might think you're just remembering the good times, but the enemy loves to weaponize memory to pull you back into spiritual captivity by highlighting only the sweetness while hiding the sorrow. And I say this to you as your father, not to shame you, but to awaken you. This constant watching, this scrolling, this spiritual surveillance is not love, it's bondage. And I want to set you free because you cannot receive what I have for you with hands still clinging to what I've released you from. And I know it's not easy to let go, especially when the connection felt so real, when your prayers included their name, when your dreams were intertwined with theirs, but real doesn't always mean right. And what was real in one season can become toxic in another if it begins to steal your peace, your joy, and your identity. And that's exactly what happened here. You began to lose yourself while trying to keep them. And I couldn't let that continue. Not when you were my masterpiece, not when I called you for greater. And so I allowed the separation, even when it hurt you, even when you didn't understand. And now I am asking you to trust me beyond the grief, to trust that I am not a God who takes without restoring, that I am not a God who allows heartbreak without redemption. And I want you to know there is someone coming into your life who will not confuse you, who will not leave you guessing, who will not make you chase them through a digital maze of mixed signals. And they will not just pray with you. They will pray for you, speak my name over you, and see your soul before they see your surface. But I can't bring them while your heart is still rehearsing a story I've already ended. And yes, it may feel like you're losing, like they're winning, like you were forgotten, but in time you'll see. The one who let go of you wasn't your loss. They were your lesson. And the longer you keep peering into their life, the longer you delay the life I've planned for you. And that life is waiting, not behind a screen, not behind a profile, but in my presence, in your purpose, in the moments you stop asking why they left and start asking me what I'm preparing. Because what I'm preparing is divine alignment, a love that doesn't hide, a future that doesn't flicker in and out of your life like a signal with poor reception. And when you finally delete the bookmark, when you finally resist the urge to check again, you will feel a shift in your soul, like a chain breaking, like a fog lifting, like your spirit returning home. And that is when the healing begins, not when they apologize, not when they explain, not when they post something you've been waiting for. But when you decide that you're done being loyal to the image of someone who was never loyal to your soul. And I promise, my child, what's ahead will not only replace what you lost, it will restore you, multiply your joy, and prove that I never take something without giving you something greater in return. And even now, as you hear my voice deep within your spirit, there's a quiet tug that still tries to convince you to open that app one more time, to search their name, to revisit the digital trail of someone I've already removed from your divine storyline. And I want you to know, child, that this is not a test of your strength, but a doorway into your true spiritual freedom. Because while your fingers may hesitate, your soul already knows the truth. That this attachment, this habit of returning to, what wounded you is not about love anymore. It's about a wound that never got the closure it craved. And I, the Lord your God, am speaking this now. You don't need their closure to receive my healing, and you don't need their permission to let go of what was never meant to stay. And though the enemy has whispered lies to you in your moments of weakness, convincing you that their life moved on and yours froze in place, that you lost while they won, that you were easy to forget, and they are unforgettable. I am here to tell you that my plans for you have not stalled. They've simply been waiting for your surrender. And each time you try to find signs in their pictures, search for meaning in their captions, or decode the presence of someone new on their timeline, you're feeding a spiritual hunger with emotional breadcrumbs, and those crumbs will never satisfy the greatness I placed within you. Because you were never created to survive off of glimpses. You were created to feast on purpose, to walk in authority, to thrive in a future where love is not confusing, not cold, not fleeting, but constant, clear, and consecrated by me. And right now you may feel weak, like your heart is split between what you remember and what you deserve. But even in that split, I am performing surgery in the unseen. I am cutting soul ties that you didn't know existed, healing memories you buried too deep to speak about, replacing every lie you believed during the relationship with truth from my word. And yes, I saw the nights you cried after watching them move on, saw the way your heart sank when they celebrated someone new, saw how you compared yourself to strangers, asked why you weren't enough, why your love didn't keep them, why their story kept going while you stood still. But my precious one, I was never still. I was working, defending you in battles you couldn't see, blocking relationships that looked good on the outside but carried poison inside, redirecting your steps. When you tried to circle back to what I already healed you from, and though I gave you free will, I've always sent whispers, signs, and divine interruptions to remind you you are not alone, and this pain is not your punishment. It's your preparation. And when you finally delete their name from your search history, not as a moment of rage, but as an act of release, heaven will move. And the spiritual atmosphere around your life will begin to shift because you are making room for divine fulfillment, for the new people I've handpicked to enter your life, not with confusion, but confirmation, not with secrecy, but security. And when that love arrives, it won't come wrapped in games or riddles or hidden timelines. It will arrive with clarity, peace, and a voice that doesn't leave you wondering, am I enough? Because they will have already heard from me that you are more than enough. And I say this now. Every time you chose to let go, even just a little, even when your hands trembled and your heart ached, I celebrated that moment in heaven because it meant you were coming home to yourself, home to me. And though the road ahead may still feel lonely at times, I will surround you with divine connections, with conversations that heal instead of hurt, with doors that open without force, and with peace that doesn't need to be earned. And I know you think their chapter was your only shot at happiness, but I, the author of your life, have written joy into your ending. That far outweighs the temporary thrill of their presence. And what I'm about to do in your life will make you look back at this heartbreak and thank me for not answering the prayers you once begged me to fulfill, because I love you too deeply to let you settle for someone who didn't carry the weight of your calling. And when that realization fully settles in your spirit, when you no longer measure your worth by their silence, when you no longer feel tempted to seek updates from someone who gave up the right to know you, you will rise in ways that silence the very doubts they planted in you. And you will become a walking testimony of what it looks like when someone chooses me over their memories, when they choose wholeness over habit, destiny over delay. And my child, that's when you'll laugh again, not the polite laugh you forced while you were hurting, but the deep, unfiltered laughter of someone who knows they were always chosen, always seen, and always held, even when they were dropped by others. And here's my final promise. In the weeks to come, someone is going to speak your name with reverence, not regret. They're going to pursue you with prayer, not pretense. And you'll feel it, not in their post, but in their presence, because I will send them, not as a replacement, but as a reward for every time you chose to trust me instead of checking a screen. And when they arrive, you'll know without a doubt. This is what I was waiting for, and what you were always worthy of.